The story begins on a warm Saturday morning in the bustling city of Lagos, where the air buzzed with excitement, gossip, and the unmistakable tension that always lingers around big celebrations. David stood in front of the hotel window, staring down at the traffic crawling sluggishly past the palm-lined boulevard. His wedding day, a day most men approached with pure joy. But him? He felt something twisted, an uneasy knot tightening in his stomach, as if fate itself had raised an eyebrow at his choices. He adjusted his tie for the third time, glancing at his reflection. At 29, David was the kind of man who had always tried to handle everything with logic. He was calm, steady, polite, and sometimes brutally honest to the point of trouble. But even he knew what he had done wasn't logical. It wasn't polite. It wasn't normal. Not by any Nigerian standard. He had invited all 3 of his exes to his wedding. Not just casual dates, no. Women he had loved at different points in his life. Women who knew his flaws, his dreams, his fears, and his secrets. Women who had, in one way or another, shaped the man he was now. And today they would be in the same room, under the same roof, watching him marry another woman. He breathed out slowly, trying to calm the storm inside him. Behind him, his best man, Tund, shook his head with a mixture of pity and disbelief. David, I'm saying this for the last time. Why did you do this to yourself? David didn't look away from the window. Because they deserved to know. They were a part of my life. I don't want to pretend they never existed. Tund sighed dramatically. Yes, they existed. But why invite them to your wedding? Omo, even people that didn't date know this is a bad idea. David managed a faint smile. It'll be fine. It won't be, Tund muttered under his breath. It definitely won't be. Downstairs, the wedding hall was already being decorated. Warm gold and white tones, soft lights, and floral arrangements that smelled like a blend of roses and expensive perfume. Guests would start arriving in a few hours, but 3 women were already on their way, each carrying her own unresolved story. The first was Amara. She was the calmest of all 3, graceful in a way that made people turn their heads without her even trying. David's first serious relationship, the woman he had dated back in university. She was thoughtful, loyal, and patient almost to a fault. When they broke up, it wasn't because either of them failed. Life simply pushed them in different directions. She had moved to Port Harcourt for work. He had stayed in Lagos. They tried long distance, but reality eventually outweighed the romance. When she received David's invitation, she sat with it for a long time, staring at his name. A part of her felt honored. Another part of her felt a quiet ache she thought she had buried years ago. But she accepted the invitation anyway. She wanted closure, even if she didn't admit it out loud. The second woman was Saad. Bold, sharp-tongued, beautiful in a fierce way that made people cautious around her. She and David had burned bright and burned fast. Their relationship was passion mixed with arguments, affection mixed with stubbornness. They had loved each other deeply, but neither of them knew how to compromise back then. Every disagreement became a war. Every misunderstanding became a storm. Eventually, they both realized they were hurting each other more than loving each other. Saad accepted his wedding invitation with a smirk, telling her friends, "Let me see the woman that finally tamed him." But beneath the confidence was a bruise she didn't show. The third woman was Leah. Quiet, sweet, and gentle. Almost too gentle. She and David had dated last year, long after he matured and learned to communicate better. Their relationship was peaceful, almost perfect on the surface, but it ended when she revealed she wanted to travel abroad for her master's degree. She didn't want a long-distance relationship, and she didn't want David waiting for her. She said it softly, with tears in her eyes, but she ended the relationship anyway. Her acceptance of the invitation shocked even her best friend. She claimed she was coming to support him, but deep inside, she wasn't sure if she had made the right decision by letting him go. As the hours passed, David's fiancée, Talia, got ready in a separate room. She had no idea the kind of emotional landmine her future husband had planted. She thought the guest list was normal. She didn't know 3 names were missing: deliberately omitted because David didn't know how to explain it. He wanted to tell her. He planned to, but every time he tried, fear silenced him. And now, here they were, hours before vows. Hours before truth and consequences would collide. David exhaled slowly and whispered, "I just hope today doesn't explode." But deep down, he wasn't sure. The first of the exes to arrive was Amara. A soft breeze swept through the hotel entrance as she stepped out of the taxi, her long gown flowing behind her like a calm river. She looked around, taking in the gold decorations and the sound of distant laughter trickling from the reception hall. Her chest tightened, but she forced herself to breathe. She had rehearsed this moment, walking in with confidence, smiling politely, pretending her heart wasn't fluttering with old memories. As she walked through the lobby, she spotted David's aunt, who still remembered her from years ago. "Amara? Is that you?" the woman exclaimed, hugging her warmly. "Ah, my dear. You look so beautiful. How is Port Harcourt?" Amara smiled, answering politely, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept wondering what she would feel when she finally saw David again. Would it hurt? Would it feel normal? Would she regret coming? She shook the thoughts away and headed toward the waiting area. Moments later, another presence swept into the hotel, this time with more force, more confidence. Saad. She arrived in a sleek black car, stepping out in a fitted emerald dress that demanded attention. Her makeup was flawless, her expression unreadable, and her heels struck the marble floor with a certainty that made heads turn. She wasn't there to blend in. She never was. She was there to see the man who once drove her crazy with love and frustration. But inside her chest was a quiet tension she refused to acknowledge. She approached the check-in desk and glanced around sharply. She spotted Amara on a nearby couch, and for a moment, their eyes met. Two women who had never met before but instantly understood why they felt a flicker of discomfort. No words passed between them, but the air shifted. Neither said a thing. Not yet. Then, almost as if fate had been waiting, the third woman arrived. Leah stepped into the lobby with a nervous smile, clutching a small purse. Her dress was simple, elegant, soft pink against her skin. She looked around anxiously, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Unlike Saad, she wasn't bold enough to pretend she felt nothing. And unlike Amara, she hadn't trained her heart to stay steady. Her eyes widened when she recognized Saad. Of course she had seen pictures before. Then her gaze drifted to Amara, who looked peaceful but guarded. Three women. One passed. Leah's stomach dropped. This was the moment it hit her. David didn't tell them about each other. Saad folded her arms, tilting her head. "You must be Leah," she said in a tone that wasn't hostile but wasn't friendly either. Leah blinked. Yes. And you're Saad, right?" "Correct." Saada's eyes glinted with curiosity. "So, he invited all of us." Amara let out a soft breath and sat up straighter. "I guess he did." There was no anger yet, just confusion, a growing awareness that something about this was off. Deeply off. Before any of them could speak further, Tund walked into the lobby and froze the moment he saw the trio seated together. "Oh no," he whispered to himself. He approached them with a tight smile. "Welcome, welcome. You all look wonderful." Then he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "But please, for the love of God, don't kill him today." Saad arched a brow. "Why would we kill him? We haven't even seen him yet." Leah bit her lip nervously. "Did he tell you we were all coming?" Tun swallowed. "Well, not exactly." Amara's eyes narrowed. "What does not exactly mean?" "It means," Tun said, choosing his words carefully, "that he thought it would be wise to give each of you a chance to see him move forward." Saad barked a laugh. "Wise? This is either stupidity or madness." "Both," Tund muttered. Upstairs, David still had no idea the meeting downstairs had already begun. Meanwhile, Talia was in her dressing suite surrounded by bridesmaids, laughing lightly as she admired her wedding gown in the mirror. She looked elegant, graceful, completely unaware of the emotional storm gathering just floors below. Her friend Anita nudged her shoulder. You look like you're about to float. Are you that excited? Talia smiled shyly. I am. I've waited so long for this moment. What about David? Anita teased. Has he stopped panicking yet? Talia laughed. David doesn't panic. He's the calmest man I've ever met. If only she knew. Her phone buzzed, and she smiled when she saw David's name. She didn't answer his call, just sent a quick text. I love you. Can't wait to see you at the altar. David read the message in his suite, and guilt punched him hard in the chest. He had dug a hole for himself without realizing how deep it was. And now the women from his past and his future wife were all colliding on the same day. He paced the room, running a hand through his hair. I need to fix this, he said. Tund walked in just as he said the words. My guy, you can't fix this. You can only pray. David swallowed hard. Are they here? All three, Tund replied. Together. David's heart dropped. Oh no, he whispered. He suddenly understood. This wasn't just going to be awkward. This was going to be explosive. David felt his knees weaken as the reality settled in. All three exes. In the same building. In the same lobby. And soon, to be in the same wedding hall as his unsuspecting bride. He sat heavily on the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. This wasn't how it was supposed to go, he murmured. Tund sat beside him. No matter how you turn it, this was never going to go smoothly. You could have just sent them a text. David groaned. I didn't want it to seem cold. They were important parts of my life. I didn't want to pretend they didn't matter. Pretend, no, Tund said. But inviting all three? On the same day you're tying the knot? Bro, you didn't just open old wounds. You used a shovel. David didn't respond. He couldn't, because deep inside he knew Tund was right. He had acted on sentiment, on guilt, on a misguided attempt to do the honorable thing. But honor had collided with reality, and reality was looking like chaos. Downstairs, the tension among the three women had grown thick enough to slice. Though none of them were shouting or creating a scene, their eyes did most of the talking. A mix of curiosity, nostalgia, quiet hurt, and something else none of them wanted to admit out loud. Saad crossed her legs and leaned back in the chair. So which of us was he planning to hide? Because I know he didn't tell his fiancée. Leah's shoulders tensed. He didn't tell her anything about us? Amara shook her head. I doubt it. David always struggled with these kinds of conversations. Saad clicked her tongue. Struggled? Please, this one is avoidance. Premium grade avoidance. Leah fiddled with her bracelet, voice soft. Maybe he didn't want to upset her. Saad shot her a sharp look. And bringing all of us here won't upset her? Before Leah could answer, David finally appeared at the entrance of the lobby. He stopped in his tracks when he saw them, sitting side by side like the universe had united his past into one uncomfortable row. They turned toward him at the same time. 3 different expressions. 3 different stories. 3 different heartbreaks. He swallowed hard and approached them slowly. Hi, he said awkwardly. Saad raised one brow. Hi? That's all you have. Amara offered a small, polite nod but said nothing. Leah looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. David sat down across from them. I know this looks strange. Strange, Saad repeated with a laugh. My dear, this is not strange. This is madness. David, Amara said gently. Why didn't you tell us we would all be here? David rubbed the back of his neck. Because I wasn't sure any of you would come if you knew. Leah blinked. So you tricked us? His chest tightened. No, I wanted to be honest, but I also wanted to do right by each of you. I know I wasn't perfect when we were together. I made mistakes. I hurt people. And I wanted you to know I'm not running from my past. I'm not pretending it didn't exist. You were important to me. All of you. Silence settled, heavy and complicated. Saad rolled her eyes. You should have sent a letter. A long one. With apology paragraphs. And bullet points. Not this spectacle. David sighed. I'm sorry. Truly. I didn't mean to cause anyone pain. Amara softened a little. She had always been the calmest. David, we're not angry. At least I'm not. But you should have told your fiancé. That was the part that hit him the hardest. He lowered his head. I know. Leah spoke timidly. Does she know anything about us? David hesitated. She knows I dated before, just not the details. Saad sat up straight. So she thinks we're random guests? She thinks you're old friends, David admitted. Saad let out a loud, incredulous laugh. No, no, no. This is worse than I thought. Leah whispered. David. What if she finds out on her own? David's stomach twisted. She won't. But even as he said the words, he knew it was a lie of comfort. Meanwhile upstairs, Talia was taking photos with her bridesmaids when her makeup artist noticed her phone buzzing. Babe, someone is calling you again, she said. Talia smiled. Probably my mum. But when she picked it up, she saw a message. One that wasn't from her mother, but from an unknown number. The message read, Are you aware your groom invited 3 of his exes to your wedding today? Talia froze. Her friends noticed the shift instantly. What's wrong? Anita asked. Talia didn't answer. Her hands trembled slightly as she read it again. 3 exes. Today. Here. Her pulse quickened. She felt a sudden weight pressing on her chest. It's probably a prank, she whispered. But doubt had been planted. A seed that would grow quickly. Back downstairs, David stood up. Listen, I don't want today to be ruined. I just need everyone to stay calm. Saad scoffed. Calm? You invited your romantic history to your wedding. Amara stood slowly. David, we're not here to cause problems. But you need to fix this before it reaches her. Leah added softly. Because if she hears it from someone else, the implication hung in the air. David knew exactly what they meant. He looked at the 3 women, the gentle one, the fiery one, the thoughtful one, and realized that despite everything, they weren't his problem today. He was his problem. And he had minutes, maybe hours, before this delicate situation shattered into pieces. David took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment press down on him. Every second that passed made the decision more urgent. He knew the 3 women in front of him had every right to feel hurt, confused, or even angry. But he also knew that his fiancée, Talia, deserved honesty, respect, and the opportunity to step into this marriage without betrayal looming over her head. He looked at each of them in turn. I've made mistakes in the past. He began slowly, his voice steady but full of emotion. Mistakes with all of you, and I've lived with them for years. But today, I can't let those mistakes ruin something beautiful. I can't let my past hurt my future. I'm asking for your help. Not for forgiveness, though I hope someday you can, but to be mature enough to let me walk into this day with honesty, with integrity, and with the woman I love by my side. Saad leaned back, crossing her arms. Her sharp eyes softened just slightly. You really think inviting all of us here, on the same day as your wedding, is integrity? David gave a rueful smile. Probably not. But I didn't want to hide from my past. And I didn't want to hide from you either. I wanted to be transparent. The truth is messy. But it's better than pretending. Leah's lips trembled slightly. I think I understand. You're asking us to accept what is, not what could have been. Amara, quiet and calm as ever, finally spoke. You've grown, David. I can see that. And while this is unusual, I don't feel hurt. I feel a little nostalgic, yes, but mostly I feel closure and peace. For the first time, the tension in the room began to ease. Even Sada's fiery expression softened into a smirk. Well, at least someone here has their head on straight, she muttered. You're lucky, David. Very lucky. He swallowed hard. I am. But luck isn't enough. I have to make sure today goes right. All of you need to understand that nothing, no old argument, no old emotion, can affect this wedding. Talia deserves that. And if you can help me, just this once, I'd be grateful forever. A quiet understanding settled in the room. The 3 women exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Amara nodded. We can do that. Saad rolled her eyes but allowed a small smile to form. fine, but I'm watching him. He tries anything funny, and you'll hear about it later. Leah smiled shyly. I can do this. For Talia. For him. And for myself, too. David felt a wave of relief wash over him. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what he had imagined when he first sent the invitations. But it was real. And that was enough. Moments later, the wedding hall doors opened, and Talia stepped through, radiant and confident in her white gown. Her eyes immediately found David's, and he felt a familiar warmth in his chest. She approached him with grace, her hand sliding naturally into his. He realized that despite the whirlwind of past emotions surrounding them, this woman was steady. She was the home he had been searching for all along. He leaned closer and whispered, "You'll never have to worry. Not today. Not ever." Talia's smile was gentle but knowing. "I trust you," she said softly, "and I can see you've faced your past. That's what matters." The ceremony began, and despite the unusual circumstances, it was beautiful. The pastor's words about love, forgiveness, and growth felt especially powerful, echoing in David's heart. When they exchanged vows, the depth of his love for Talia shone in every word. And when the rings were placed on their fingers, a tangible sense of closure and new beginnings settled over everyone in attendance. Even the exes, sitting quietly in their seats, seemed lighter. Ada smiled softly, a gentle warmth in her eyes. Saad laughed quietly at a private joke between her and Leah herself looked peaceful, her hands folded neatly in her lap. For the first time in years, the ghosts of David's past felt like memories rather than burdens. As the reception began, the hall transformed into a celebration of love, laughter, and life. The music played, and guests danced joyfully, clinking glasses and exchanging heartfelt wishes. David stole a moment to look at the three women who had once shaped him, realizing that their presence, their forgiveness, and their understanding had given him the clearest gift he could receive: the chance to move forward without shadows trailing behind him. Later, as the night deepened and the crowd thinned, David found himself alone with Talia on the balcony, the city lights of Lagos sparkling like scattered stars beneath them. He held her hands tightly. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice hushed but earnest, "for trusting me, for being patient, for loving me." Talia smiled, leaning her forehead gently against his. "You faced your past today, David, and now we can truly start our future together." He exhaled, feeling the last remnants of anxiety dissolve into the night. The three exes had come. The past had shown up. And yet, through honesty, respect, and forgiveness, the day had remained intact. In that quiet moment, with the city alive around them, David realized something profound. Life didn't erase mistakes, and love didn't demand perfection. But it did offer second chances, growth, and the possibility of peace. And as he held Talia close, he finally understood that facing the past didn't weaken love. It strengthened it. The future was theirs, untangled from the knots of yesterday, ready to be lived fully, fearlessly, and together. The wedding that could have been a disaster had instead become a story of maturity, forgiveness, and love enduring beyond mistakes. And David knew, as he whispered into Talia's ear, that this was only the beginning. A beginning built on honesty, courage, and the extraordinary grace of letting go.